here's an article here to do with the super tank ammo, the depleted uranium. I'll put this link up too. It's from the Courier Mail. And it's from Australia. It says here, FSDSAP shell tipped with depleted tungsten, which is similar to a shell tipped with depleted uranium, is seen here at the General Direction of Armament in Bourges, France, it says. Graham Seal didn't know any of this when he went to Somalia with the Australian Army as a repair and maintenance officer in 93. He told the Repatriation Medical Authority he worked at a US-Australian shared washdown yard where he would clean vehicles. I think they even did a documentary on television, maybe the BBC did that one, because all the guys who worked on those vehicles that were covered with a white powder from these exploding shells came down with cancers. He said he was exposed to dust and debris blown from tanks used in live fire and would splash around in shared water from the same area. A few years after returning, he reported kidney problems, which he told the authority was a sign of radiation exposure, and then he developed a brain tumor, a malignant neoplasm of the brain. He died in 2009, aged 56. Depleted uranium is used by a handful of countries in their armory, as it's almost twice as strong as lead and makes an effective casing, as well as protection in some types of tanks. It actually punches right through the tank. It's amazing. Australia does not use depleted uranium. The official line is Australian troops can only come into contact with the EU if they serve alongside NATO forces such as the US, which use it extensively. I mean, they left a lot of that stuff in Bosnia, and they've got a lot of birth problems here now, genetic problems, malformations, and so on, and tumors. Same thing, of course, in Iraq. And this is the cost of war, they tell us. This is, but it took only a dozen calls to veterans and their associates by the Sunday Mail to dig up a handful who'd come into close contact with the DU with some concern for their health. According to a question and answer session in 2006, the Senate, the Australian Navy did use DU munitions after buying the fully loaded Phalanx close-in weapon system from the US in the 1980s. It took the Navy 10 years to phase out the munitions, which have been replaced with tungsten penetrators. Late last year, the Administration Appeals Tribunal of Australia ruled there was no evidence which points to a connection between SEAL's service in Somalia and his malignant neoplasm in the brain, adding, at the highest, it's a mere possibility only. Oh, they always say that, don't they, these guys? SEAL's widow, Lynette, and his veterans advocate who prepared the case, Helena Smith, always knew it was going to be an uphill battle. They were trying to set a precedent. The first step was to have the Repatriation Medical Authority accept there was enough exposure to DU to cause his brain tumor. But the same in Canadian troops as well. Remember the CBC did a documentary, and there was female soldiers came back and their hair fell out, their teeth fell out, and it was quite a good documentary. You saw these poor souls, and that was after serving over there as well. So they are using it, and the military always denies, because they're privately owned, you understand, like your government's private corporation. And when you join the military, you become a private. You're taken out of the public. You're now owned privately. You see, and they can do with you as they wish, by the way, once that happens, for those who didn't understand that.